take the spoil and to take the prey, and to tread them down like the mire of the streets.
Okay. What is the meaning of hypocritical? Okay.
And then do what I told you not to do.
It's not necessarily wrong to say one thing and do another, because sometimes you get interrupted, but what hypocritical means that you intentionally um, tell somebody to do what you would not do. And or you tell somebody that not to do something that you are doing. And Jesus described it as a mote and a beam. Number 3.
After the Lord's work was performed against Jerusalem, what would happen to Assyria? He said they would be punished. But I forgot some of these.
Another verse for number 3.
And verse 12. Right?
Go ahead.
12 through 14.
Okay. Next.
On the next command.
Alessia's been the strongest.
I need to bring it back. Oh, question 4. Why would the Lord use Assyria and then later punish it? Justice. They were punished for pride.
Okay.
That's weird. 10, 12. Unless I was.
Through 14.
Okay.
Punished for his stout heart and high looks, not for destroying Israel or Judah. That's it. Ephraim. Number 5.
How many of Israel would return unto the mighty God? A remnant or few? 10 verses 20 and 21. And it shall come to pass in that day that the remnant of Israel and such as are escaped of the house of Jacob shall no more again stay upon him that smote them, but shall stay upon the Lord, the Holy One of Israel, in truth. The remnant shall return, even the remnant of Jacob, unto the mighty God. For though thy people Israel be as the sand of the sea, yet a remnant of them shall return. The consumption decreed shall overflow with righteousness. Verse.
Okay. The remnant appears again.
Only the remnant.
Number 6.
Where would a rod and a branch come from? Out of the David's lineage. 11.
Okay. 4 out of the stem of Jesse. How is Jesse related to David?
And his roots. Apparently.
Number next.
Describe the Spirit of the Lord that rests upon him. I said, wise, understanding, full of counsel, and mighty, knowledgeable, in essence, godly. 11, 1 through 2.
Okay.
Pretty much the way that God described it.
Well, that's pretty much what the answer was.
Did you have a reference?
Yeah, 11, 1 through 2.
I just was going on the reference. Or fear of the Lord.
Oh, yeah, I meant to mention that one. I just couldn't write it on there. Godly took its place.
Number next.
Give a description of the peace that will exist when the branch comes. Figurative language showing an end to hostility, cheating, killing, etc. Chapter 11, verses 6 through 9.
Okay. Question or comment?
The author makes a pretty good argument showing that it wasn't literal, like some people want to say. You know, lion and the lamb are not sitting down directly. Um, you know, we've read that, I think, last week or a couple weeks ago when we went through this
Mm-hmm.
about how it's not a literal one because obviously it's inconsistent to say that to describe a perfect peace that exists among all the people and animals that reside on earth, and yet then say that sin continues to be on the earth, resulting at the conclusion of the 1,000 years in a battle of the nations. Kind of can't have it both ways.
Yeah. Number 9.
Unto whom shall the Gentiles seek? Said the ensign of the people. 11 verse.
And what was your answer again?
The ensign of the people.
The N sign? As in EN sign?
So if you look at verse 10, there's something else in there. Because it's a little bit more specific than the ensign or the ensign. In 11:10 it says, "In that day there shall be a root of Jesse which shall stand for an ensign of the people, and to it shall the Gentiles seek, and Israel shall be glorious." So they're looking to the root of Jesse, not the. And I mean, yes, he is the ensign of the people, but I think the author was wanting you to be a little bit more specific when he says, to whom are they looking? Yes, he is the ensign, the standard, or the flag which they're looking to. But who is it? It's the root, Jesse.
That's what I heard.
I had both.
Got a good audience tonight.
Yeah.
Monster.
Yay.
So, hello, Maureen, Mom, Sheila, Sam,
Everybody.
everybody. Back there.
Number 10.
Why would men say, I will trust and not be afraid in that day? Because God is their strength and salvation. Well, 1 through 2. One just got thrown in there because.
Just because.
Just because. Context, you know.
I had strength in song and salvation.
But
Question or comment over the fill in the blank? Or whatever you call it. Short answer.
we're in.
What's scripture?
True, false. Number 1.
The staff in Assyria's hand was the Lord's indignation. True. 10 verse 5.
Yeah. Some figurative language. Number 2.
Assyria realized its strength to fight was of God. False. 10, 12 through 15.
Okay. I included 14. Number 3.
The Lord urged Israel to be afraid of Assyria. False. 10, 24 to 25.
Okay. Next.
Verse 4, number 4. There would be a highway for the remnant to come from Assyria. True. 11 verse 16.
A little bit more defined. I thought.
I did have to dig on that.
It's right there in plain to me.
Easily overlooked.
Number 5.
In that day, praise would be sang unto the Lord. True. 11, verse 1, 12.
That sounds better. 12:1. True, false. Any questions? Comments? All right, we got the research question.
Where in the New Testament is Isaiah 11:10 quoted? By that context, is the fulfillment of this prophecy in the past, church age, or the future? Explain. I don't know.
You didn't find it?
I did not.
Hmm.
I know you can prove his He's a descendant of Jesse in John 12, 20, 21, but I didn't find the exact location it was quoted.
Romans 15:12. And by that context is the fulfillment of this prophecy in the past, the church age, or the future. According to context, it's the church age. The context shows Jesus ministering to the circumcision, confirming promises, granting mercy to the Gentiles, and Paul ministering the gospel to the Gentiles in Romans 15, verses 8 through 19. So
You filled your blank?
I did. I actually had to go over under the blanks.
And add a line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Only for the word Gentiles and then the reference, but you know.
And the thought question.
Want to do that one, Ezra? Okay. How could God be righteous in using Assyria, a more wicked nation than Israel, to destroy Israel, God's own people? I said a tool is neither good or bad. It just is. God is righteous in all his ways, Psalm 145, verse 17, and used a tool to carry out his will on a people. Then used the same standard to judge the people of the tool. In other words, the nation of Assyria was this tool. The people of the nation were judged as unrighteous in their arrogancy and in their pride. And so when they became too wicked, well, by the same standard that he used to judge Israel, he turned around and judged Assyria. The nation was the tool. The government was the tool and carried out his will. And the people were the ones that were judged. So, you know, God is righteous.
God had given his people every advantage, thereby just in punishing them, then punishing Assyria for their own sin.
You know, he didn't punish Assyria for carrying out his will upon Israel. And he makes that very clear in this passage. He punished Assyria for their own wickedness. And thus is God's righteousness preserved. If he had have used Assyria to punish Israel and then turn around and punish Assyria for punishing Israel,
They're listening in. They're listening to it.
that would have been an unrighteous, that would be unrighteousness. But because he punished them for their own sin, then he maintains his righteousness, like you said.
There's a verse that I just thought of fits in very good, and that's paraphrase of it: the one who sins is the one that gets punished.
Well, let's see here. We have
Peter
Deuteronomy.
There's quite a few.
Well, I think it's in Ezekiel.
Well, Ezekiel 18.
The soul that sinneth, it shall die.
Yeah.
Maybe is what it is.
What about Romans 7:9? What is that?
For I was alive without the law once. When the commandment came, sin revived, and I died.
It's one of the passages I have for my inheritance sin thing. That in Ezekiel 18.
Okay, anything else over the questions?
And as I thought on it, I'm like, by this time, are they really a more wicked nation? They both offered their children to other gods. They've both gone worshiping other gods. The list goes on. Are they really a more wicked nation in this time?
The more important question is what we just discussed, you know, um, they weren't destroyed because they were more wicked, they were just destroyed because they were wicked.
Right.
Well, it's just like God told Israel when he sent them into Canaan, he said, I'm not giving you this land because you are more righteous than the nations that you're going in to dispossess. He says, but because of their wickedness, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that was just there. And he tells them that through Moses in Deuteronomy as well. So don't say in your heart that it's because I'm more righteous. Deuteronomy chapter 9, verses 4 and following. Speak not thou in thine heart after that the Lord thy God hath cast them out from before thee, saying, for my righteousness the Lord hath brought me in to possess this land. But for the wickedness of these nations the Lord doth drive them out from before thee. And that's exactly what, exactly the reason why Assyria came in and exacted punishment upon Israel. It wasn't because they were a more righteous nation than Israel. It was because Israel was very wicked, and needed punishment. He continues, not for thy righteousness or for the uprightness of thine heart dost thou go to possess their land, but for the wickedness of these nations the Lord thy God doth drive them out from before thee, and that he may perform the word which the Lord sware unto thy fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And understand, therefore, that the Lord thy God giveth thee not this good land to possess it for thy righteousness, for thou art a stiff-necked people.
You should know as well as I do. You guys aren't the best.
Okay. Moving on to page 40. Isaiah 13 and 14.
Better catch up on the comments. Sam offers up, in regard to our tools comment, Proverbs 16:4.
The Lord hath made all things for himself, yea, even the wicked for the day of evil.
That just basically goes to say that, every person has their day in court.
Okay,
I mean,
yeah.
pretty much.
God is sovereign over all the nations. Part 2.
Babylon, the heir of Assyria, will fall to the Medes. Cross-reference.
Yep.
No,
Chapter.
chapters 13 and 14. Destruction is coming against Babylon, chapter 13. The prediction of judgment, chapter 13, verse 1 through 5. Verse 1. Isaiah, like the prophets, Jeremiah, chapters 46 and 51. Ezekiel, chapters 25 through 32, and Amos chapters 1 and 2 presents God's declaration, in essence, burden or oracle, NASB, about world powers and their downfall. Jehovah is not only the Lord over Israel, but he rules in all the kingdoms of men. Cross-reference Daniel 4:17, 25, 32, and then chapter 5, verse 21. Israel was God's covenant nation through whom the promised seed came, and therefore special revelation with its attendant blessings or cursings was bestowed upon that particular people. However, all other nations were subject to obey the Lord, and sections of prophecies like these reveal that the Gentile nations were not left totally without opportunity for repentance.
Okay. So Isaiah wasn't the only time that God gave them an oracle. And predicted the world power and their downfall. What's your comment?
Yeah.
Next.
Verses 2 and 3, the call goes forth to God's warriors to gather for battle against Babylon. A banner or standard is raised in a place where it could be easily seen upon a high mountain cleared of trees, and with a shout at the beckoning of hands, the sanctified ones. Medes, cross-reference verse 17, are summoned.
So a beckoning of the hands of the sanctified ones.
I like bring it on.
Amos? Yeah, that's the one.
Amos, we miss you.
That's what I'm talking about.
Verses 4 through 5. Immediately the noise of the multitude is heard as the armies mustered for the conflict. Their leader is portrayed as no less than the Lord himself. In reality, they are but his instruments to execute judgment against this wicked nation. Just as Assyria earlier had been described as God's rod of indignation against other wicked nations. Cross-reference Isaiah 10, verse 5 and verse 15.
Okay. And what we've been talking about in the previous lesson.
Fits right in.
Yeah. Okay, Michelle.
2. The day of Babylon's destruction will be the day of the Lord. Chapter 13, 6 through 16. Verse 6. The day of the Lord, cross-reference, verse 9 and 13, is often used in the Bible to refer to a time of specific judgment, but not always to the final judgment of the world. Cross-reference Joel 1, verse 15, 2, chapter 2, 1, verses 1, 11, 31, chapter 3, verse 14. Whenever the Lord is the one who controls any visitation and punishment, that specific day of destruction is the day of the Lord. Cross-reference 2 Peter 3, verse 10, and 1 Thessalonians 5, verse 2.
Second Peter 3:10 says, "But the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in the which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. The earth also and the works that are therein shall be burned up." Now just how do they say that the earth isn't going to be burned up?
Or they try to predict when he's going to come.
Yeah. And how many times have they done that?
Successfully, 0.
And then 2 or 3 times in my lifetime they've tried to picture that day, and predict that day, and with the same outcome.
First Thessalonians 5:2 echoes the thief in the night comment.
Okay. Why would it be important for Isaiah to mention the day of the Lord?
It's coming.
Well, he uses a figure to show how it's going to come. You know, a figure that most everybody would understand, that you're going to come as a thief in the night. You know, it's not going to be sirens going off or any signs before, except the one sign. What was that one sign?
The voice of the or the trumpet. Or are you talking about in Isaiah?
Just in general about the coming of the Lord. The day of the Lord. The sign. The only sign that people would have was the sign of Jonah.
That was the only time that was pictured, but yeah, with the sign of Jonah. There shall no sign be given but the sign of Jonah. As Jonah was 3 days in the belly of the fish, so shall the Son of Man be 3 days.
That's the only sign, and that sign has appeared a long time ago.
Long time ago.
Happy. You won't know until it's right up on you.
Remember next.
And it's also interesting that, the day of the Lord, by the way, is always about his victory. He never fails. When he controls, the author here talks about him controlling any visitation or punishment, and that's the day of the Lord. Well, it's also his victory. I mean, it's complete. And Isaiah makes mention of that. The day of the Lord is at hand; it shall come as a destruction from the Almighty.
Amen.
That's because the Lord of hosts musters the host of the battle, and so when he fights, it's over.
Yeah.
He done won.
Okay.
But
If he's
So-
with us, who can stand against us?
You know, and that's kind of the idea behind the day of the Lord, is his triumph. When Jesus was, you know, when he died on the cross, his triumph was his resurrection. And the sign was him lying in the grave for 3 days, but then he, just like Jonah was spit back up on the
Right.
shore, and Christ raised from the dead, and now he reigns triumphant in heaven. Well, that was the day of the Lord. One might say, in one way, we're living in the day of the Lord, because Christ has been triumphant. 1 Corinthians 15 over sin, and he gives us the victory, as Paul says.
Okay.
So in that sense, you know, we're kind of living there, but it hasn't been fully realized, because then there's the day of the Lord that's going to come as a thief in the night, when everything's going to be burned up. And hey, guess what? Christ is triumphant. Then it's his
Every knee
day,
shall bow.
right? So anyway, side note. Verses 7 through 8. This particular announcement struck sorrow in their hearts, as they are paralyzed with fear and astonishment at the horrors wrought upon them.
Okay. They got caught footed. Ezra, I guess we're back to you again, man.
Verse 10 through 9, or 9 through 10. When the day of the Lord comes, the destruction upon the wicked will be so great, it is comparable to the likeness of the sun, moon, and stars, giving no light, leaving the world in darkness. Cross reference Amos 5, verse 18, Ezekiel 32, verse 7 through 8. The upheavals in the realm of nature
Depicted.
depicted in the verses do not necessarily demand a literal fulfillment, but through these figures of speech, Isaiah vividly portrays the greatness of God's power in bringing judgment.
He does that very well.
Yeah. Here he talks again about the literal and figurative side of the animal, the realm of nature. Question, comment?
I guess one could say that during this instant, there is no light at the end of the tunnel for them.
Yeah, well. Next.
Verses 11 and 13 through 13. The following quote from Paul Butler well describes this section. Jehovah, using the secondary means of the Medo-Persian conquest, is going to lay waste the massive and powerful Babylonian Empire. Their societal structures, their culture, their name, their very existence is to be obliterated. It will be such an upheaval of the whole structure of society, then known then known it would be as if God had turned off all the light in the world. When a government and culture like that of Babylon, which had such influence all over the world, cross reference Daniel chapter 4, verses 1 through 27, comes to such a sudden and chaotic end, it would seem as if the whole universe had caved in. The figure of the stars and the sun and the moon being darkened is a favorite figure of prophetic literature. Cross reference Joel 2, chapter 2, verse 10, chapter 2, verse 31, chapter 3, verse 15, Amos chapter 8, verse 9, Micah 3, verse 6, and Matthew 24, verse 29. It is a figure that depicts downfalls of anti God human structures to such an extent that men turning everywhere and anywhere for light and hope find only darkness and despair. The destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD, was such a downfall of Judaism that those who had rejected the Messiah and Christianity were victims of the wrath of God, and it appeared to them as if the sun had darkened and the moon had turned to blood, etc. Commentary on Isaiah, Volume 1 and 2, College Press, page 221.
Okay.
You can see how that would follow. The switch, turning off the switch.
Yeah.
Babylon was very much the center of the world during its time as a world, as the dominant world power. You see that in Daniel. You see that in the writings of the world outside of that, of the Bible at that time.
They told other nations what to do.
The Hanging Gardens of Babylon were known as one of the seven wonders of the ancient world. And with the onslaught of Cyrus and the Medes and Persians, and the defeat of the Babylonian Empire, it did turn the world upside down. It did shut and especially by the time Alexander the Great came on the scene, Babylon had fallen to such a pitiful estate that it wasn't long before it was void of any inhabitants and has remained empty ever since.
In fulfillment of prophecy.
In fulfillment of God's prophecy, yeah, that we find within the scriptures. So, more than once, God had described Babylon as a star, star of the morning.
Mighty tree.
And the mighty tree in Daniel, the morning star in Isaiah, I believe it is. And so when it fell, it was like a star going, like the stars going out. So yeah, you can see that figure. And just like when Jesus on the cross, in fulfillment, the skies were darkened. That was literally what happened. The Creator, his creation mourned at the death of the Son of God. And
There's no way at the end of the tunnel.
so, yeah, it's amazing how this goes. Ooh, 6 minutes.
Well, it wasn't Babylon completely destroyed when the Medes defeated them.
Sam asked for clarification on verse 12 of chapter 13. Are we in 13 right now?
Yeah, I was in 2 Peter.
We're supposed to be in
Yeah, I guess
13.
we're still in 13. So, what is this? What is verse 12 reference to?
You're not going to find anyone in that area, basically.
The English Standard says, beginning in verse 11, I will punish the world for its evil and the wicked for their iniquity. I will put an end to the pomp of the arrogant and lay low the pompous pride of the ruthless. I will make people more rare than fine gold, and mankind than the gold of Ophir. Now, what's the question?
What is this reference to?
Reference to God's judgment upon the people. It's going to be utter destruction. Make people more rare than fine gold, and mankind than the gold of Ophir.
I still thought it was Babylon, right?
Yeah, the burden of Babylon, which I say the son of Amos, is verse 13, verse 1.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're still dealing with the people of Babylon.
Destruction of Babylon.
So as you read through the context of that verse, it continues. 13 following, therefore I will shake the heavens, and the earth shall remove out of her place in the wrath of the Lord of hosts, and in the day of his fierce anger. And it shall be as the chased roe, and as a sheep that no man taketh up, and they shall every man turn to his own people, and flee every one into his own land. Every one that is found shall be thrust through, and every one that is joined unto them shall fall by the sword. Their children also shall be dashed to pieces before their eyes, their houses shall be spoiled, and their wives ravished. Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it. What we're looking at is, like you were saying, is the punishment of Babylon. This is, very much
It's
utter
utter
destruction.
punishment. It'd be rare to find a Babylonian when he gets done.
Similar in nature to the way that God utterly destroyed the land of Israel. Not that he wiped out the Israelites, but he removed all the Jews from the land of Israel. In AD 70, when the Romans finally had enough, they came in and they took every Israelite from the land and sold them into slavery, everyone that they could find. They inundated the slave markets so much that basically you couldn't give away a Jewish slave because they were so plentiful.
Everyone already had 20.
And but they removed them from off out of their land, which is why there wasn't many, if any, Jews left in Israel come the Second World War, and 1940s when they decided to try to rebuild the land of Israel.
47.
I think it began in like 43, 45, and it was finally recognized in like 47. There was an underground movement going on in about 43, 45, something like that.
Going during the war.
With the spearheaded by David Ben Gurion, and on and on. So but what God is saying here in chapter 13 is in reference to Babylon, and God totally wiped out the nation and the people of Babylon. Anyone that was Babylonian was guilty.
Using the Medes and the Persians.
Mhm.
We'll pick up here next time.
$7.20. $7.20. Watch and pray. Watch and pray, for the Lord is coming, coming in the clouds someday. Wash your robes in the cleansing fountain. Watch, oh, watch and pray. Watch and pray. Oh, watch and pray. For we know not the hour when the Lord shall come. Watch and pray. Watch and pray. And be ready to enter the soul's bright home. He may come in the early morning. He may come at close of day. Watch and pray in his promise, trusting. Watch, oh, watch and pray. Watch and pray. Watch and pray. For we know not the hour when the Lord shall come. Watch and pray. Watch and pray. And be ready to enter the soul's bright home. So give heed to the Savior's warning, and his blessed word obey. Be prepared when he comes to meet him. Watch, oh, watch and pray. Watch and pray. Watch and pray. For we know not not the hour when the Lord shall come. Watch and pray. Watch and pray. And be ready to enter the soul's bright home. When he comes, he'll reward the faithful. What a glorious day 'twill be. Joy awaits those who have made ready. Watch, oh, watch and pray. Watch and pray. Watch and pray. For we know not the hour when the Lord shall come. Watch and pray. Watch and pray. And be ready to enter the soul's bright home. $782. 782. Worthy art thou. Worthy of praise is Christ our Redeemer, worthy of glory, honor, and power, worthy of all our souls' adoration. Worthy art thou, worthy art thou, worthy of riches, blessings, and honor, worthy of wisdom, glory, and power, worthy of earth and heaven's thanksgiving. Worthy art thou, worthy art thou. Lift up the voice in praise and devotion. Saints of all earth before him should bow. Angels in heaven worship him, saying, Worthy art thou, worthy art thou, worthy of riches, blessings, and honor, worthy of wisdom, glory, and power, worthy of earth and heaven's thanksgiving. Worthy art thou, worthy art thou. Lord, may we come before thee with singing, filled with thy spirit, wisdom, and power. May we ascribe thee glory and honor. Worthy art thou, worthy art thou, worthy of riches, blessings, and honor, worthy of wisdom, glory, and power, worthy of earth and heaven's thanksgiving. Worthy art thou, worthy art thou.
Heavenly Father, I thank you for this time that you have blessed us with. We have today study, work, and work. We uplift you, do so, learn your voice, and help us to take that apply for our own use to help us grow and to continue to demonstrate blessing, things like that. We ask you to do
all the